What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Bro vs. Sis. I'm Bran.
I'm Tay.
And today we're going to dive into the Spider-Man universe and really figure out if Spider-Man Far From Home is the best Spider-Man movie made to date. What do you think, Tay?
I think it just might be a contender. So, in order to figure out if it is number one on the Spider-Man list, we're going to look at three separate areas. That includes the villains, the plot, and the overall interpretation of Spider-Man, who we enjoyed most. By the end, should figure out who and what movie we found to be the most enjoyable and entertaining and the best Spider-Man.
Absolutely. And for this interpretation, for this video in particular, we're only going to stick to the live-action versions.
Yes.
I think both of us have a lot of love for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I love that movie. It's my personal favorite Spider-Man movie. But overall, we're just going to stick to the live-action versions, touch a little bit about the Sam Raimi versions, the Andrew Garfield versions, and now the MCU version.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, so for this video, it is a spoiler alert. If you have not seen Spider-Man Far From Home, please do not watch this video. We don't want to ruin it for you, because we're going to dive into it just a little bit. So, you know, spoiler alert for that. So for this section, what we wanted to start off on is the best villain. Now, most people would say to start off with the best Spider-Man, who's the best interpretation of them. But for us, we definitely believe for every superhero, there must be a better super villain. So, Tay, when it comes down to it across all the live-action interpretations of Spider-Man, who's the best villain in your opinion and why?
Okay, I gotta throw it back all the way to the original and go with Green Goblin, William Dafoe. He is my favorite interpretation of a Spider-Man villain throughout the whole series. When you look at him, first of all, as an actor, he's very accomplished. You know, going from something like Mississippi Burning to Aquaman to, you know, his versatility through a bunch of roles. He does really well. He really took the character and brought him to, like, real life. You know, this guy who has this whole company, the company's falling apart and struggling, he goes to these great lengths to try and save it, even to the point where he's going to do experiments on himself, because he's at that level of desperation. And then you slowly see him kind of go into madness, you know? I think my favorite scene out of every Spider-Man, maybe even every superhero movie, is when he's talking to the mirror. I don't know if you got, you know, I'm going to show you guys a quick clip just to remind you of it, but it was very intense.
The board members. You killed them.
We killed them.
We?
Remember your little accident in the laboratory?
Performance enhancers.
Bingo. Me, your greatest creation.
The acting, and it's the character, and you're seeing him go to this dark place, and I think it was phenomenal. So for me, that interpretation was the best, and I really, really felt engaged in that movie because I think that villain did really well.
Alright, so Green Goblin, William Dafoe is a phenomenal actor. I think that face acting that he did within that movie was fantastic. It really did bring out that this man was diving into a deep rabbit hole into madness.
Right.
For me, I'm going to go actually a different route. You know, some people would definitely say that Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 was fantastic. And I think that there are so many points in Spider-Man 2 that I loved, and we're going to touch base on that on the next one. But for me, I actually really like Jake Gyllenhaal's interpretation of Mysterio.
Did you?
And here's the reason why. I find it to be very difficult when you can make a character that is not very well known, that is, you know, in many people's opinions, kind of cheesy. Some people would say he's a little bit lame if you really don't know the character as well as others do.
Right.
Some people will look at this character's costume originally and say, really? Like, this is who's going up against, you know, Spider-Man. But for me, I think that the fact that you can take a character like that, that many would kind of underestimate, and bring him to a whole new level, that completely changes the perception of him.
So what was your favorite part of his interpretation?
So my favorite part was two things. One, it was very realistic. Like, when the entire bar scene kind of just like disengaged and you saw all the people who were a part of that cast, and you saw him like, hey, you know, you're the guy that got pissed off from Tony Stark. how many of us have really been pissed off from something that our boss has done before?
Gotcha.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And for me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I could see where Tony Stark, even though I love Iron Man, I can see where sometimes his hubris and his confidence would get so overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is where sometimes he may step on some toes. I mean, he even said in the movie, "You called my work's creation barf." And it showed his face, and he was just like, you know what I'm saying?
that was
And
rough.
that was like, I get
was
that.
rough.
So I thought that was very relatable. And then the last
Okay.
thing, when they did his whole scene of actually being inside of that kind of Mysterio,
yes,
like,
the reminded me of Doctor Strange a lot.
very much Doctor
Diving
Strange.
through, yeah,
but
yeah.
you remember, you know, okay, so again, back to the Batman thing. You remember the Arkham games where you would
Yeah.
fight Scarecrow, right?
Oh.
And you would go into that dream sequence. That
That was
put
rough,
to
yeah.
film was exactly that. And Mysterio, that's the only way that he'd be able to fight Spider-Man. You
Right.
know, because once you get your hands on Mysterio, he's really just a man.
Person, yeah.
But it's all about perception. It's all about deception. It's all about everything like that. So for me, I really enjoyed the mental aspect of that. And he really, you know, messing with Peter's emotions throughout the movie.
Right.
So
Oh.
for him, I got to give him the cake. He did a great job interpreting this character. And Jake Gyllenhaal, for me, one of my favorite movies, Nightcrawler. A lot of people don't realize how good of a movie that is, but he also did another movie, Prisoner, a few other films.
Brokeback
like that.
Mountain.
Oh, yep, he was in definitely Brokeback Mountain. So he's done a range of different films, and I actually enjoy his interpretation in every single one.
Okay, so we have the best villain down. Now, best plot. Brandy, what do you feel like is the best plot?
Okay, so for this one, remember how I said earlier I'm going to jump to Spider-Man 2. I personally think Spider-Man 2, of all the Spider-Man movies, had the best plot.
Okay.
I think that they took a lot of comic book references, points of Spider-Man, you know, losing his powers at some point, Spider-Man not really wanting to be a part of the, you know, crime fighting anymore, Spider-Man, you know, interacting with Mary Jane and Aunt May and kind of, you know, coming to terms with Uncle Ben's death. I think that there were a lot of side pieces in that movie that made me just want to be engaged, whether it was the personal relationships he had going on, the romantic relationships, his best friend relationship, you know, finding out, you know, Harry finding out that his father died by his hand,
Yeah.
and then he also has to be a college student, you know, and that's the thing about Spider-Man is he's always had to balance an extremely large amount of pressure from society because he is a kid growing up. Right? Unlike other superheroes where they're already mature and past that age and adults, you know, Spider-Man's trying to become a kid from Queens that grows up in New York and try to go through high school and college and a romantic relationship. So, you know, the plot for me, I think that one was the most well-rounded. And that train scene that occurred throughout that movie.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Doc Ock.
I mean,
It was really good.
it was perfect. It was perfect scene, and if you take a 5-minute, you know, scene from any superhero movie and said, I want action, I want the villain, I want, you know, snarky comments, I want some good acrobatics, and cheesiness, you know, and a little bit of the people being saved, and then an emotional ending, that's that scene that I would definitely pick. So that's the plot for me, Spider-Man 2 all the way. How about you?
I actually will give Far From Home the cake on that one. So I think for me the most refreshing thing about Far From Home was that it was Far From Home. I mean, how many Spider-Man videos have we seen in New York? And as much as we love New York, we love it. It was really cool. Okay, let's take this somewhere else. I think outside of, you know, different location, having us deal with the loss of Iron Man in the movie, adding that aspect in there, and really having Peter Parker go through these emotions of loss of somewhat of a father figure to him, was really interesting to see. I really feel like, and I'll go into this when we talk about our favorite Spider-Man, but I feel like Tom Holland's portrayal reminds me of a high school kid. Like, you know, an excited, goofy, kind of, you know, oh, I can't wait to go to prom thing. And I find that really refreshing. And being able to find the cast with his friends. There were, you know, some serious, deeper moments, but then there were also some lighthearted tones, which the movie was actually really funny to me. So, and definitely the way, you know, the villain coming out, for those who aren't into the comics, like I wasn't aware, I was like, well, plot twist. and I always love a good plot twist.
Fight scene at the very end of this movie, Far From Home, when he was going up against all those androids, I got nervous for Peter.
Wow, that was really impressive in the hallway.
Right.
Next level. He took
Yep.
normal kind of, web sling, kick him down to blow him up, to really hardcore, almost Wolverine kind of
Yes, Fury. Right?
crazy
Yes.
going off the walls.
Yeah.
That was excellent.
I
Forgot to
loved
mention that.
scene.
Peter
Perception.
sense?
Yeah, Peter Tingle, right?
Peter
Yeah.
Tingle.
Just went
Unloaded.
berserk and just went ba 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 ba.
That's
When he
good.
took off the arms or something, he just started, knocking them out, and then he made his way to Mysterio. I was like,
Very good.
What? So,
I really think it was a good plot. I really enjoyed where it went, and then where it left off. It's like, mouth drop. Oh great, he's outed. No, wait, no, that wasn't really him, kind of thing.
and I didn't think about that aspect of New York not being the main focal point as it is in so many Spider-Man. I mean, he is that kid from New York, but
Right.
you're right. I think that it was kind of different when he, landed in different areas of Europe, and tried to learn to be able to be Spider-Man away from
And the
home.
fight scenes, when you do have all those elementals destroying these historic European sculptures and figures and locations, I thought all of that was really great.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so for this last one, we're actually going to get into who did the best interpretation of Spider-Man. All right, so what actor, in your opinion, did
Tom Holland. Mr. Starr.
All right, so
I love Tom Holland.
all right, so kind of break it down. Why Tom Holland?
I just feel like Tom Holland has really, Andrew Garfield, I just really didn't connect with when looking at Tobey Maguire. Although the nostalgia there for me, because he was my Spider-Man growing up, he was a very mature Spider-Man. Like you could tell he was just an older guy, and he was older when he was doing the film, so that kind of does come across. I can't see him, like I said before, being excited about prom and jumping up and down. So there were things about Tom Holland that maybe his youth may be able to contribute and that come across. He's like, I just want to be a high school kid. And you can really see that in him and his struggles. Does he want to slide into that Iron Man role? Like, all that. He plays it very well, and I think he does a very accurate representation, as far as I know, of what Spider-Man, my ideal Spider-Man.
Sure, yeah. And for me, I'm actually going to have to agree with you on this one. When it comes to Tobey Maguire, I have respect for him as an actor.
Right.
I don't have anything against him. I thought his Spider-Man for the time was very good. Just for, the first Spider-Man being put on film in that way. When he took the mask off, I really didn't feel that connection to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see back in the early 2000s seeing that Spider-Man on film. When it came to Andrew Garfield, I didn't really feel as if he fit the Spider-Man mold very much. I think that a lot of that had to do with the script and how they tried to portray Spider-Man in that universe. So when it comes to Tom Holland, you're right. I mean, Tom Holland is able to capture that wallflower personality
Right.
that Spider-Man.
Shout out to Zendaya, because she's the best Mary Jane. I love her. She's awesome.
And again, she's a more relatable Mary Jane for me
Yeah.
because I
Yeah,
feel like
very much.
in today's society,
Kirsten Dunst was on paper Mary Jane, like she looked like her, but I think Zendaya brings a little bit more depth to the character, her personality a little bit more, which I
right,
enjoy.
and a little bit more modern. And in the first movie, Homecoming, you didn't really see her personality come out nearly as much
Right.
as you did in
This
Far
one.
From Home. And when I saw her like act shy to talk to Peter and stuff like that, I was kind of like, this is nice. Like I didn't ever feel that same level of kind of tension. That kind of cute tension that you get in that high
Right,
school field,
absolutely.
right? But overall, I think that all three actors are very good at what they can do. I think Tom Holland is just able to, capture what I always read and what I always saw.
Body high school,
Right,
and
the high school, the
cute best friends, and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
and just
so.
balancing life as a whole as a superhero and as a young man. So I think that Spider-Man, definitely Tom Holland, he does a great job, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the near future, especially with Iron Man being gone. I want to see how he's going to be
So
carrying building that role, carrying into the future.
Well, tell me, so we'll finish it off. What do you want to see, being the Marvel experts, Spider-Man experts?
So, yeah, when it comes down to it, I think that, if you guys know, at the very end of Far From Home, they kind of make Spider-Man into this outlaw, and actually that's always how Spider-Man is perceived in many of his comic books, right? That he's not perceived as the good guy. He is almost like this Batman vigilante, and the one that's egging him on is J. Jonah Jameson, who they introduced at the very end of the
awesome.
movie. It's great to see him come back as that role.
And he's the most accurate, comic to screen copy of a character I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
He's bald normally, which is crazy because
He came in, same exact hairstyle. He just
Yeah.
literally just got up one day, went to work, and was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And that's it. So, for what I want to see, I'm not really sure yet on who I want to see as the villain. I
Right.
think the Elementals kind of were good in this movie, so that takes away Sandman and Hydro Man. I want to see a Sinister Six be made, but I think that the MCU is ready for a Green Goblin. I honestly think that we are ready to see our first interpretation of the MCU's version of the Green Goblin.
Okay.
The world is ready to see somebody else who is capable of being able to have machinery and technology and weapons. I'm ready to see what maybe a Peter Parker who has learned to mature and not to trust everybody interact with the Green Goblin, who is a terrifying and very notorious Spider-Man villain. I think I'm ready to see Oscorp come to life. That's
Gotcha.
definitely it. So thank you all so much for joining us.
like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate comments.
Absolutely. Let us know, what are some of your opinions about Far From Home. Did you like it better than all the other incarnations? Did you not like it? Let us know. We'll be able to kind of respond back to you guys, just have some nice conversation. And of course, I am Bran.
I am Tay.
And thank you all so much for joining us. We'll talk to you all soon. Peace.